Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome back to Fixed by Frank. Now in today's video, we're going to be refurbishing this iPhone 7 32GB back into brand new condition. Now this is going to be quite an easy repair and quite an opportunistic repair for the reasons that this phone only has a cracked screen. Now, yes, the screen is cracked very badly, but besides from that, there's no other real issues with this phone. This phone has a battery health of around 88%, which is pretty decent and something that's definitely not bad at all. But I was looking around some of the lock stuff that we have here at Frank and I found this gem. Now this is an iPhone 7, I think 32GB, but it's locked. But this phone is in brand new condition, and I mean literally brand new condition. Now this phone has a battery health of 100% capacity, which means that it's basically never been used. There's not a single scratch on this device. It has a perfect screen. And basically in today's video, we're gonna be taking the motherboard and the home button from this iPhone and putting it into this one, vice versa, and ending up with a brand new unlocked phone that someone else can use. Because what normally happens with both of these devices is that they end up in landfill and they're not used again. And basically after this repair, someone's going to be able to use this phone and it won't be put into landfill. So without any further ado, let's get started. So we can start off this repair by opening up the phone by taking out the bottom two pentalobe screws and then using a metal pry tool to pry around the edges of the screen to release the screen and then open it up like a book. So you've got to be pretty careful here because the flex cables are located on the right hand side of the phone, so you don't want to rip any of that stuff. But then we can have a look inside and you guys will notice that in the top right hand corner of the phone located on the loudspeaker is a sticker, which means this phone has been opened before and repaired. So this is just something important to note about the phone's history. Now, despite the phone being repaired before, it was actually in very, very good condition on the inside with little to no dust and basically no wear and tear whatsoever. So all the parts of this phone are in really, really good condition and won't need much of a cleanup. But then we can move on to removing the screen. So we'll take off all the brackets that hold down the cable connectors of the screen. Then we can unpry the battery and then we can disconnect all the flex cables attached to the motherboard. Then we can remove the screen and we can begin repairing the insides of the phone. So we're currently working on the unlocked phone, and the way this repair is going to work is we're going to take all the parts that are connecting the motherboard to the housing of the phone out, and then we can take the motherboard of the phone out of this unlocked phone. And this will be our unlocked motherboard. Now we're going to do the exact same process on the locked phone, and we're just going to swap the motherboards over. And then basically we can put all the parts back into place and we would have successfully swapped over the housings. So like I just said, there's a series of screws throughout the phone and little brackets and things like that that actually hold down the motherboard in place. Now, we've got to remove all of these little parts and then we'll have to remove all the little cable connectors and brackets that hold down the motherboard as well. And then one of the most important parts of removing a motherboard from a phone is to remove the SIM tray, because the SIM tray actually holds the motherboard in place. So what will happen is a lot of people will try and pry out the motherboard with the SIM card still in place and they'll get nowhere and they'll just damage the motherboard and the whole phone will be ruined. So we'll have to remove this. It's very, very important. And then we can carefully pry out our unlocked motherboard from our damaged housing. And then we can do the exact same process on our locked phone and remove the locked motherboard from that housing so we can put our unlocked motherboard in that housing, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you guys get what I mean. And here is what all the parts look like laid out on the desk after successfully removing the motherboard. So we'll swap the motherboards over to make sure they go into the right housing, and then we'll also swap over the SIM trays so they match the IMEI of the motherboard. And then after we've successfully swapped over our motherboards, we can begin installing them into their respective housings. So we've got to do this very carefully, and we're going to be working on the unlocked phone first. So we're going to make sure that we get all the cables and brackets into place, and then we can begin installing all the little screws and things like that that are necessary to holding down the motherboard in place. So we're going to be careful here. And this is where it becomes so important to keep all your parts organized when you're removing them from the housing, because if you stuff any of that stuff up and you're trying to install them into the housing, again, it's just an absolute nightmare if you don't have all the right parts in the right place, because the phone won't work. And it just becomes super confusing when you're trying to put all these parts back into place. So we can reinstall the cellular antenna back into the top left-hand corner of the phone, which is arguably the most important part of the phone, maybe behind the motherboard because the motherboard runs the whole entire phone, but this is responsible for all the calls and texts of your phone. And then we can reinstall the camera back into place and put the bracket that holds the camera back into place back into place. And then we can do the exact same thing we just did on our unlocked phone on our locked phone to make sure that all the parts are back into place. And this also means that we can use the phone in the future if we want to use it for any parts or anything like that, instead of just throwing it out like I was saying at the start of the video. And then we can begin the process of working on the screen. So what I'm doing here is I'm removing the home button brackets to hold down the home button in place of both of the screens so I can access the home button so I can swap them over, because we have to swap them over on iPhones 7 and above. This is mainly because when the iPhones are originally created, they're only synced up with one home button that works with that original phone. So if that home button becomes damaged or no longer works, you cannot swap that home button with another one and have it working. It just does not work at all. So it's very, very annoying. So we have to swap the home buttons over so that they work with their subsequent motherboards. So of all the times of the repair to stay focused, this is probably one of the most important, because any damage to that flex cable of the home button means that it might not work again, and the only way to get it fixed is to take it to Apple and have them sync it up with the home button again, which is very, very annoying. And after we'd finished all the swapping and rearranging of parts within the phones, we can plug the phone screens back into place and plug the battery in place and give it a quick test to make sure everything's turning on and working, give that touchscreen another test before we install our new waterproof seal. Now this is a part of the repair that I'm very passionate about and making sure that I do it properly, because this is a part of the repair where a lot of other repairers and third-party people will actually skimp out, and it's because it doesn't make a direct impact to the functions of the phone, but it's very important to the health of the phone long term, because what you can see me doing here is I'm installing a new waterproof adhesive. Now originally when the phone's created, there's a waterproof adhesive that's installed, and when this phone's taken apart, the waterproof adhesive becomes compromised because it's getting pried at and all that kind of stuff. So it's important to reinstall this, not just for waterproofing purposes, but also it keeps dust out of the insides of the phone. And in turn, it just makes the phone last a bit longer in the long term, which is very, very important here at Fix by Frank. So after all the waterproofing adhesives have been applied, we can begin reinstalling the screen back onto the phone to wrap up this repair. So we'll attach the flex cables of the screen back onto the motherboard, and then we can install the subsequent brackets to make sure that everything stays in place. And then we can finish up the repair on this unlocked phone by closing it up and making sure all the adhesives are applied properly and the screen stuck down properly. And then we can put those bottom two pentalobe screws in place to finish up the repair, and then we can give it a quick test to make sure it's all turning on and working properly and physically looking good. And then we can give the touchscreen a quick test to make sure that's all working as well. And then we can do the exact same thing we just did on our unlocked phone on our locked phone to make sure all the parts are back into place, and this is ready for use again if we need it for parts in the future to finish up this repair. Here it is, the iPhone 7 32GB back into brand new condition. Now this phone is, just upon looking at it with my own two eyes, in really, really good condition. This thing looks absolutely phenomenal. It looks like it's brand new. This is one of the most premium refurb phones I've seen in a while. This thing is absolutely phenomenal. It has a battery health of 100%, which is absolutely crazy. If you guys want to check it out, down below our website is frankmobile.com.au for premium refurbed iPhones just like this one, and on our website this would be classified as mint condition. This is because it has absolutely no scratches on it. It is basically in brand new condition, and it also has that beautiful battery health of 100%. So like I said, if you look at what we started with, it was a disgusting manky old iPhone 7 that it was working, but it wasn't in good condition. We've taken something that was definitely going to be thrown into landfill, this iPhone 7. We've used the parts from the locked phone, put them into the unlocked phone. We've made a beautiful iPhone 7 32GB that someone else can use. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. We really do appreciate it. And if you guys do want to check out our website down below, it's frankmobile.com.au for premium refurbed iPhones just like this one. So thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.